Damn it, dude.
Today working on the Camaro. This is a 69 with a 302. The customer just got it back from whoever they got it back from. I'm not exactly sure. But it runs like crap, and there's some stuff that needs to be addressed. For one thing we noticed is that the fuel pump is about at the just under the level of the carburetor, whereas the pump, they're not really good. They're better pushers than they are pullers. So that pump needs to be removed, relocated to in close proximity to the tank, and we need to move the regulator back there as well. And we're going to redo all the lines because it's kind of hokey the way it is. It's kind of flopping around. Just kind of, it's supposed to be hard mounted. So, and that's over the headers. If the seal fails, you're gonna dump fuel right on your headers, and you're gonna bring your car down to a crisp. So, so that's one thing we need to do. The other is we need to do a compression check to see how much timing this motor wants. The cam seems pretty healthy. It's probably like a 230 cam at 50. It seems super sluggish, and I don't know what the static compression ratio is of the motor, but we'll be able to get some insight into what the motor wants by doing a compression test and seeing if it's below 160 or right around 160, we're gonna lock out the distributor and give it 35 degrees, and I guarantee that'll wake it up. Mm-hmm. So that, and what else do we say we need to do?
Some rims.
Oh, we're gonna go look at rims. Right now it's pretty cool. I mean, it has the rallies on it. I like the way this looks, but I also like rims too, so looks pretty sweet. We need to look at, we're gonna install a electric fan. He wants to get rid of this mechanical fan. So we'll take that off. We might have to build a shroud for it. If we can't find a fan that has a shroud that works with this system. And the exhaust. He wants us to complete the exhaust. Right now it just has dumps right after the muffler, so we'll look at that. Those are a couple things we need to look at. So before we go to the store, let's do a compression test, and let's look at what we're working. Let's kind of gain a little bit of insight into this motor. So pull the plug out. Looks pretty good. It's a little bit rich. They didn't put any anti-seize on the
threads.
On the threads, so we'll have to do that. That's a no-no, especially in aluminum heads. But overall, the gap is kind of big, but that's probably about right. So go ahead, put it in neutral. Let's crank it up over and see what it is. All right, so it's a lot lower than I thought.
Really?
Yeah. I'm gonna pull the coil wire off. Go ahead and do it again. Do it again. Keep going. Alright. Yeah, that's really low.
95?
It's 100 pounds.
Ooh. Yeah.
It's 100 pounds. That's like, that's really bad. As far as
Street.
for
any?
for
It's not a turbo.
yeah, I know. Yeah, but even if it was, that'd be bad for a turbo.
Yeah.
Damn, that's low. I was thinking it's gonna be like it was at 150, but that's because the engine started. But 100 pounds is nothing. The Chevelle is like 65 or 170, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's with the blower.
Yeah.
So typically for a car like this, I would want like 160 to 170 range for a street car. You could even make a case for 180.
Mm-hmm.
Would be a pretty good round number. But this thing needs all the timing. So we are going to lock at that distributor and give it 35 degrees. That's why it's so doggy.
So how does the timing, like if you have low compression, how does the timing help?
So the timing helps because the pressure in the cylinder is so low that the smolder time of the air and fuel. So the smolder time
Takes longer.
Is the time it takes the fuel to actually propagate across the cylinder. The fuel will ignite slower. So it's like lighting a fuel outside like if you had it at atmosphere, like 15 pounds, you light it, it's kind of, it's pretty slow.
Oh, so you're advancing it, so it's going to fire before.
Because the pressure in the cylinder is a lot lower, you have to ignite the fuel earlier, right? Because it takes, the flame propagation across the cylinder is a lot longer, so you have to accommodate for that, especially at the lower cylinder, or not the cylinder, but the lower RPM levels, right? So as the RPMs increase, the fuel density changes because the carburetor doesn't control the air in the motor, it controls the air density. So when the throttle blades are all the way open, the density is higher. There's more oxygen, right? And there's more fuel. So there's more pressure. But at the lower RPMs, the volumetric efficiency of the cylinder is a lot lower. I mean, it's only filling up like a very, very small amount. So the pressure is really low. So you need a lot more advance at the lower RPMs. But with this motor, I mean, they say typically you want all the advance in by like 3,500 RPM. But we're going to give all the advance up front. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, that's low.
Yeah.
It's low. So even my Chevelle, I have 160 PSI cranking, and I have my distributor's locked out at 35 degrees. Well, it's fuel injected now, but it was locked down. So that explains it. That's kind of what I figured it. And I don't care what style of car you put on this car, it's still going to run like crap.
Yeah. With those numbers.
So yeah, cylinder pressure makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
If you have high cylinder pressure, and if you ignite the fuel too early, then it'll detonate.
So does that mean if you have like super high compression, like let's say like 14-1, would that also change timing? Yeah,
if you had 14-1 compression, it changes the static timing. So the dynamic timing has to you have to consider the variables, and that is the cam timing, the static compression, right? And those two things together changes your cranking compression, right? So if you have like 14-1, but you have like a 290 at 50 duration cam, it's going to bleed off a lot of cylinder pressure at low RPM, so you need a lot more timing. All right, well, it looks like this is the source of our exhaust leak. I don't know what the frick this is. I don't know what we're gonna take this apart on camera just so I'm very curious to see what type of joint they were smoking.
This one isn't even.
Yeah, that one's, you can't even take it off.
Yeah.
So well, it's solid. That's so. Let me get a wrench. Shit, let me get a wrench. All right, let's see what we got here. Kind of special mechanic put this together. Oh yeah, that's real great.
That's hilarious.
That is the dumbest shit
I've ever seen.
No, maybe not the dumbest, but it's pretty up there. It's pretty far up there. Dude, are you serious? What the hell? For those of you out there that don't know, this is not recommended. It looks like they cut through the pipe most of the way.
Looks like all the way.
Up here, it looks like it's connected still.
Yeah.
You know, what I think happened is they had to cut it because the angles didn't match up, and then they just put this over it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's pretty much consistent with all the other things that we discussed earlier. Just not really knowing what the hell you're doing, or not caring.
Not only that, but look, what is this? 2.5, 3 inch?
That's 3 inch.
3 inch.
Yeah,
Down
that's
to 2.5.
with the no transition. Just basically, it's like hitting the gas is like hitting a brick wall.
Yeah, that's.
I like this though. Seems like it worked pretty well. Yeah. So, I believe this is the fuel line here. It's cool for a factory car, but this fuel line is too small for a performance application. It's a 5/16 ID. It needs to be at least -6, 3/8 inch.
Yeah.
So we'll have to. It's cool for a factory car, but if you're doing like a factory restoration, that'll work. But not for a performance application. MSD distributor for the Camaro. The other HEI was not tunable for the Spark Advance, so we're gonna recurve this distributor to match the deficiencies in the parts that were selected for the build. So there's not enough cylinder pressure to be adequate with the timing that it has, so we're going to add a lot more timing in the system with this distributor. So we're going to recurve it right now. So we swapped out the distributor, took the HEI out because it wasn't compatible with the timing curve that we needed. So that distributor had to go. We ended up using a ready to run MSD distributor with a tunable timing curve. We did a new coil setup, and we are now changing the squirters for the carburetor to give it a bigger pump shot. So we adjusted the static, or not the static, but the initial timing at 38 degrees, and the compression is so low in this motor that it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't even, it's like it's at 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Which goes to show that it's really low on compression. So it needs all the timing, like I said earlier. So we're gonna increase this pump shot, and then we're gonna tune it, and then we're gonna go drive it. But first, Andrew's gonna fix that shoddy exhaust that we showed you earlier. So what I'm trying to do now is get this bolt in here without dropping this part down the carburetor. Okay. So we went from a 31 squirter to from a 31 squirter to a 37, and we extended the nozzles a little bit. So
what does that do?
So it lets the fuel, it doesn't atomize as quickly. It gets, instead of it actually breaking up ahead of the venturi, it goes further into the, extends further into the venturi. So before it actually starts to atomize and break up, it's a more of a solid stream. So, put my hands on this. So that's done. So you're gonna weld the exhaust now?
Yeah, I'll weld the exhaust and then
take it for a spin?
Yep. And we locked out the distributor, put 38 degrees initial. So we're gonna go test drive it, and we fixed the exhaust leak. Better. It's a little bit jumpy actually now. I can get used to it. That's like the throttle feel weird or what?
It's responsive now.
Once you've already driven it for a while.
Yeah, once it heats up, it gets a lot of heat soak.
Went on.
Executed.
Right away.
Yep. All right, this is the upgraded fuel components that we purchased yesterday. So this is a steel braided -6 line. And then this is our -6. We got some 45s, some 90s, some straights. We're gonna redo the whole fuel system so that it's safe and it'll perform in all conditions, whether it be 110 degrees outside or days like this. So that's next. And then we'll do the electric fan after that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we need to do something about I could still hear the headers leak.
Really?
A little bit. Like, it has a slight little tick. I don't know if he wants us to do that or not, to go that far. I'll leave that up to him. If it's something he wants to pursue, we can. But we did fix the leak the root cause, the larger leak, which is obviously
the hose clamp freaking
hose clamped exhaust.
Yeah.
I was working on the K5, so let's go look at what I did today. Another Camaro in too.
67.
Yep. So these are the control arms for the Blazer. They're basically just drawing now. We painted them, so I'm gonna put the bushings in, arm joints. I have to buy a 1 1/4 by 12 tap for the tube inserts, because when I welded it, it melted through just a little bit into the threads, and it shrunk a little bit. So, which is good. You want good penetration, so you have base metal strength. So if you were to pull this tube apart, it wouldn't break here, it'd break here.
Mm-hmm.
So so it has good base metal strength, but the drawback is I have to buy a tap, which is the biggest tap I ever freaking had. It's like, was it 1 1/4 inch?
Yeah, 1 1/4 by 12.
Big. I think the largest one I have is 1 inch.
Yeah.
It's a big tap.
Yeah.
So that's coming.
And no, we did not paint with the car in here.
No, yeah, the car was done.
We just had to move it to get the 69 up.
Yeah. But this project is next. So
what are we doing on this one?
What's that?
What are we doing on this one?
So this one needs he wants to upgrade the power steering, or actually upgrade to power steering.
Yeah.
It doesn't have power steering. This one has like let's see. This is like one of those old movies where the picture is going by, but they're in a car and they're going like this, simulating driving.
What does the speedometer say?
65.
But they're going straight?
Yeah, while they're going straight. So this one is This is how much play this has in it. And the tires aren't even moving.
Yeah, that's crazy.
If you don't have a lot of money for horsepower, just drive a car like this. It'll make you feel like you're going like 90 miles an hour and you're only going like 30.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we have a lot to do with this one. I wouldn't say a lot to do, but we have to convert that over, and I don't know. Whenever you take apart things that have been together for 50 years, you never know what can happen. All right, so this is the last weld for the control arms. We got to do another a cap weld, and then it's done. That was 6 passes.
Really?
Yeah.
That one?
Yep.
What about?
Well, actually,
that
no.
side?
That was 4 passes at 6 passes on that side.
Oh, okay.
We got as far as starting to mic some of the main bearings. So we have, this is 3,000ths, this is 24 10,000ths, and let's mic this one real quick for demonstration purposes. The reason why we're doing the main bearings now is because we're waiting for cam bearings to come in. I ordered a set of Clevite cam bearings from Jags yesterday. They'll be here on the 20th, which is Tuesday, I believe. So when those arrive, we can put the cam bearings in, blow everything out. But until then, we'll still accomplish measuring the main bearings. We may have to swap some of these over because this one's 3. I'm trying to shoot for like 28 10,000ths.
Mm-hmm.
The rule of thumb is 1,000th of clearance for every inch of diameter of journal diameter. So I think this crank mics out at let's do the thrust journal here, and we were at a cool 68 72 degrees. What does it say? 78? Yeah. So we're within measuring temperatures. So let's measure this up real quick. Let me use my glasses. You don't want to scratch the journal. You want to make sure you 100% positive that this is the correct measurement. Which I am positive. Okay. So we're gonna lock it down. So this journal is about 3.5 inches. 3.5. So we should have at least sorry, not 2. It's 2.5, not 3.5. Should have at least 2.5 thousandths of bearing clearance. So 2.6. I'm going to be a little bit on the loose end because this motor is going to be revving a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like it to be between 28 and 3, because the oil that is traveling past the bearing is what cools it down. You need about 4 psi to lift the crankshaft off of the bearing, and the bearings, I think we spoke about this earlier, but they're shaped like an elliptical. That's called the hydrodynamic wedge, and that's what aids in lifting the bearing off the bearing the bearing, the crank off the bearing. So the pressure is important, but what's also important is the oil actually flowing past the bearing, because the oil that's on the surface of this and the bearing, the journal and the bearing heats up pretty quickly, and without that oil moving past it to actually to keep it cool, then you can overheat the oil and cause a problem with the bearing actually touching the journal. So now we're going to calibrate the dowel bore gauge. It's kind of tricky. So the objective is to measure this opening from the mic and transfer that measurement over to the gauge. And what you're doing is you're just taking this predetermined gap and you're going to compare it to the bearing bore diameter, and the difference is going to be the clearance. So what I need to do, let's move this so that it actually is zeroing out right there. So that's right at 0. So now we're going to go check our bearing clearance. This thrust bearing is right at 2. Let's see, we're looking for the smallest measurement. So we're about 2 3/10, which is about the same as this one here.
Mm-hmm.
2 3/10. I'm just going to measure this a couple times. So 2 5/10 would be about right there. So we're just under that. We're about maybe like 2 4/10, 2 3/10. So 23 10,000ths for this gauge here. So we'll get a Sharpie, we'll measure what that is. We'll mark what that is, annotate that on the actual cap so we'll know for reference. So this one we said was 23, right? 0.0023. But yeah, that's what we're doing now. We're gonna go through that. And then once that's complete, we'll pull the bearings out and we'll bag them for each position. Once we mix and match all the bearings. Then from there, we'll flip the motor over and then we'll start to fit the rings. The pistons, the rings. All these rings are gonna be foul fit. They're gonna be about 5.5 thousandths per inch of bore, because this is gonna be a blower application. So we wanna make sure there's enough clearance on that. The skirt clearance should be about 1.5 thou or so, depending on the alloy of the piston.
Mm-hmm.
So once that's done, we'll clean the block. We'll take it apart, completely clean it, and then we'll final assemble it for the last time. And then the party will start. But we can't do any of that stuff. We can't do any of the cleaning or any of the assembly until we get the cam bearings. Because when you put the cam bearings in, we're going to have metal shavings that are going to be generated from the bearings being pressed in. The bearings that were in there were in pretty bad shape. They're pretty beat up. You can see there's a little ridge here. They're pretty crappy, so we're not running those again, that's for sure.
I think those are GM.
Yeah, they're worn out pretty well. Pretty bad. So
got some chips in them.
Yeah, they were chipping and causing problems. So we're not running those. Even you got some copper showing here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to take those out. I don't know why the machine shop didn't take these out and replace them. That's kind of retarded. But kind of not too happy about that. But that's okay.